with a lot with the government, but as a result of that, it's sort of a way for the government to further restrict economic freedom in its response to that. And I was wondering if there was anything in the study that sort of addressed that tendency that seems to arise when you have economic problems. People are more willing to sacrifice their freedom sometimes.
Actually, on the contrary, I think that the experience can go both ways. And actually, I think as often as not in the 20 years or so that we've got good data, it's gone the other way. Countries that have had crises of various kinds, you're right, then there's usually going to be a big policy response. That policy response, though, as often as not, has been a move towards economic freedom, not towards more control. Now, we're seeing the opposite thing in the United States right now. We're seeing a move towards more state control of the economic life as a response to the crisis. But worldwide, if you summarize all of the places that have had problems, it's been the other way more often than not. So I think it depends a lot on context.
Yeah, I was just saying what I've seen in the United States.
I think it depends a lot on context.
But yeah.
Yes.
But in this particular crisis, and I'm reading the news reports from Europe and then East Asia too, it seems like everyone's blaming this on the free market. It's a failure of the free market and all this stuff.
Right.
But whether or not you believe that, it seems that this particular crisis is causing us to regress to a more essentially planned state because of this perceived.
I think that's absolutely the case, but I think we've lost a bit of the rhetorical debate on that front. Just two counterexamples I would use right off the top of my head are both Ireland and New Zealand, both of which were pretty socialist countries in the 70s and 80s, and both of which experienced severe crises. And after the crises, they both responded by liberalizing their economies dramatically. Now they're in the top 10. So the crisis theory, and there's the crisis in Leviathan by Bob Higgs, and now we have this Naomi Klein woman running around with this crazy book. She is nuts. She is insane. But clearly things happen in the context of crises. But I think Higgs at least has a little analytical model in his mind for what goes on there. She does. But clearly, this response is clearly going the other way. Okay. So my socialist friends back in the 80s, if I got anything out of them, if I got any concession out of them at all, they would say, okay, Lawson, it does look like market economies are doing a little bit better than the socialist economies. But here's the fallback, right? The fallback is, but the distribution of income in market economies is unacceptable. There's way too much disparity in income, too much inequality in market economies, and we need to have socialism or at least some kind of degree of control of the economy to maintain an acceptable degree of income or other type of equality. That was the sort of fallback position. They concede the income question. They would concede the question that market economies are richer, but then they'd say, well, but they're too unequal, so that's why we need socialism or some kind of control. So we have this, and this is the same economic freedom scale horizontally, and the data are the income share held by the lowest 10%. I could do Gini coefficients, but I don't like. This is a general slide that again works for journalists, and they don't know what Gini coefficients are. But this is the share of total income earned by the lowest 10% of the society. What do you see? Okay, I don't see anything either. That's the answer. There's not much of a pattern there. And if you put a gun to my head, the pattern's a little bit upward sloping. It's just sort of, but it's basically a flat line. Bottom line is worldwide, the poorest 10% of the population have somewhere between 2 and 3% of the total income of the society. And it doesn't matter really that much whether you're in free market Hong Kong or Zimbabwe. I mean, there's variation all over the place. But the variation doesn't correlate with the degree of income, the degree of economic freedom. Now, there have been a few studies, advanced studies, that have tried to attack this econometrically, and they're kind of ambivalent as well, if I can summarize those 2 or 3 articles that I know of. The bottom line is, I don't think there is a lot of I don't think there's any evidence, really, persuasive evidence, that economic freedom creates, or correlates anyway, with a lot of income inequality. Inequality, if you care about inequality, and I take people at face value, there are people out there who really deeply care about the inequality in society. If you care about that, that's fine. But you need to find another thing to deal with it, economic freedom. You need to find another villain. It's not market economies that are causing the inequality that you object to. It's something else. All right? I don't know what it is, but go find it. All right? Good luck with you. But it's not this. This is the wrong tree to bark up. Having said that, I do know that if I am in the bottom 10% of a population, I'd rather be in the bottom 10th of the income distribution in a free country, because if you're in the free country, you're also probably going to be in a rich country, and the bottom 10% in the freest countries has an average income of about $8,000 compared to the about $900 or so for the bottom. This is really just the mirror image of that first one where you looked at the average income. This is the average income for the poorest of society, and needless to say, it shows the same pattern. Okay. For anybody who studied Rawls said you should judge a society by how well the poorest of the lowest of the society are treated. And by my view, this says that the Rawlsian ideal is somewhere up here, right? Because the lowest of society, the bottom 10th of the bottom of society is being treated in absolute terms better here than down there. So I think even under Rawlsian grounds, I'm not a huge fan of Rawls, but if you are, this picture I think is consistent with the story that economic freedom is more consistent with Rawlsian sense of justice. Social justice. Right. Deep philosophy is not my strong point, so I even hate to say Rawls out loud in case there's a Rawlsian philosophy major out there. I get into some deep debates. It's not my thing. You know, life is not about money and growth and other things. It's also about how long you live and a lot of other things. This is life expectancy from birth. Needless to say, in more free countries, people on average live longer, about 20 years longer than if you're in the least free countries. This is the difference between knowing your grandchildren and not knowing your grandchildren. This is a huge deal. Anyone who's a grandfather or grandmother knows how cool grandkids are. And unfortunately, people that live in these countries are statistically dead before they see their grandchildren grow up. I mean, they're already dead. And that's a great tragedy that goes beyond dollars and cents. I could show you graphs for tuberculosis, access to clean water, education. I can show you 100 graphs that all show the same pattern. I'm not a betting man, but I'm tempted to offer up a wager that if anybody can find me a clearly desirable piece of data, something that's clearly desirable, it's going to correlate in a proper way with the economic freedom index. I'm not arguing causation necessarily. I'm just saying that free societies seem to correlate with good things that we all think are good. I think we all think living longer is better than living less long. So, all right. This is political rights and civil liberties. This is for those of you who care about democracy and civil liberties. Just a little note about the data. The idiots at the Freedom House who do the data on political rights and civil liberties, they're not idiots. They're nice, good people. I know some of them. But their scale's backwards, and I don't know why I don't invert it. But to them, low numbers are good. So Walter and I, we've had this debate. Why do people do indexes and they have the low numbers be good? I don't understand that. To me, higher numbers are better. You get a test on your score on your test. The higher numbers mean better scores, right? Who scores your test with lower numbers being better? Well, anyway, they score lower numbers being good. So it has this, as you get more economic freedom, as you move from left to right, you're getting better ratings on the political rights and the civil liberties index.
Jim Gorton and I discussed this before you came on board. What we had in mind, I apologize, was it's gross sex. Namely, a woman who's a 10 is good.